Israel's become such a massive liability for the West now, you know, and yeah, it's all developed quite quickly. Israel is so disgusting, it's so heinous, and so brutal. It makes the Iranian Islamic Republic look like an angel. That's how it's actually true. So yeah, on that level, it's done tremendous harm to the image of the West as far as civilization goes, and then also it has really exposed very rapidly especially in the United States, all the falsehood about the First Amendment and freedom of speech and all this nonsense that like we live in a country that has actual freedom of speech. Well, I don't know. I guess we have freedom of speech, except when it comes to Israel, and except when it comes to our pro-imperialist, colonialist policies that have become under threat of being exposed. So when these things happen, the boomerang effect, right? Like the boomerang effect, imperial boomerang, that's what's taking hold. And all these oppressive mechanisms that have been used to keep colonized people oppressed all these years are now coming back home to roost and to basically destabilize us and control us and all that stuff. So, yeah. So like Israel is a paper tiger. I mean, yeah, Israel is a paper tiger. Israel's pretty pathetic. The West has been exposed. Yep, colonialism. So I mean, we still live in the era of colonialism, right? It's like neo-colonialism. It's not really the old-fashioned one. For 40, 50, 60 years, it has been like through the World Bank and through through debt-based systems and interest. We have pretty much enslaved a lot of the countries of the global South and exploited the resources and all that stuff. And I feel like there is a big movement of anti-colonialism and anti-exploitation that's going to be rising around the world. And one catalyst, I feel, was October 7th, because on so many levels, October 7th has shown the whole story, blown the whole Israel-Palestine story wide open, how it's like a modern version of the worst tendencies of neo-colonialism, how like they're physically colonizing them, but they're also exploiting them for cheap labor. Like Palestinians are, on a large effect, are enslaved, in Israel proper, even, through the apartheid system and all that stuff. So on so many levels, it has exposed that, and I feel like it's very important for me personally too, to speak openly about these things, not have any shame to talk about these things. I shock the hell out of people by the way I talk about how these things take place, but I'm like, no, that's actually, the insane view is the status quo view, that like, Israel has a right to defend itself and all this other bullshit, October 7th was like the worst thing ever, apparently. Anyway, and I've gotten attacks or like warnings on social media and even like on YouTube about like my usage of the word, how I describe the October 7th thing, which is like, I don't view it as an act of terrorism. I view it as even though it's violent, yeah, of course it's violent, but it is a rising up of oppressed people fighting back, it's basically the natural result of what's going to happen when you oppress people, It was a resistance. It was an act of resistance and violence, of course, violence. But as Norman Finkelstein compared it to the Nat Turner Rebellion, where the slaves in the United States, they rose up and they butchered a bunch of people, beheaded them too, I think, That's not an act of terrorism. That's not an act of criminality. Those are literally enslaved people, And like, yeah, I don't advocate for violence, but like you have to have an understanding of what happens to people's psychology and their just their behavior when you do that to them, I'm gonna go over here, not lose service. But yeah, so that's the whole point I was trying to say, People get shocked still at that shit. I mean, we have to change the language regarding what terrorism is. State-sponsored terrorism, state actual terrorism is terrorism. Just because a so-called legitimate state that has economic relevance does that, it doesn't make it okay to do, And apparently Israel's done a big part of the propaganda campaign to make it seem like a terrorist is some fucking guy who, is just some poor guy who's got like who's wearing sandals and an RPG on his shoulder. That's a terrorist, or like him running around with an explosive vest, So the language has to definitely change when it comes to all that stuff. Freaking ridiculous. I'm trying to remember a quote I heard on the news a few days ago by somebody when I was on YouTube. It was quite amazing talking about this whole idea of like, yeah, people like, oh yeah, God forbid people fight back, you know? Like, they expect to oppress the Palestinians and oppress people all over the world and expect no pushback, no resistance at all, you know? And they act shocked when there's resistance. It's just like such a dehumanization and not really like having any understanding. I mean, if I was Israel and was trying to get along with my neighbors, it would be quite easy, actually. But these people are just so stupid. They're so hung up on the idea of exceptionalism, which a lot of ways, you know, Israel is very similar to the United States in that its population, probably the single worst value system, orientation, and mindset of Americans and Israelis, which is very similar, is this mentality of exceptionalism, that we are exceptional. So when we murder and destroy people and we rape people and we destroy their economies and all that, we expect nothing to be back to us. If they ever resist, or if they fight back, that's terrorism, you know? But we are exceptional. We are exceptional in our right to even hoard resources, to, you know, it just goes on and on. All the justifications are laid out for all kinds of heinous, stupid activities. But I was going to say, we are definitely moving towards a very rapid anti-colonization, okay? We are definitely rapidly moving towards decolonization and also decolonization of our minds, right? Even all that stuff. Like, so much of our language has been manipulated and we just say words, taking them for granted. Like, you know, throwing the word America around a lot. America, America. To this day, I still say America a lot when I'm trying to describe the United States. But, like, no, America, the continent, you know? But they've dominated the language sphere so much with different words, and we have to kind of change that too. But decolonization of the world, physically and mentally, spiritually. Yeah, and the fight obviously is continuing. And I'm going to talk about the whole... Oh, look at my cat. It's just chilling out here. Finally got her to come out. But, like, I was going to say, the fight coming up between Israel and Iran. I believe that's going to happen, by the way, guys. I believe that there's going to be a fight between Israel and Iran soon. And I think that could be one of the catalysts to lead to the end of and the destruction of Israel. I really believe that, you know. Iran is going to destroy them, but it's going to be a brutal, violent fight. And, you know, I don't know. This apartheid, genocidal regime seems to get more violent as it gets more desperate. So they're desperately chasing for a victory, you know. They desperately need a victory to feel better about themselves. So the Israelis are quite an interesting people, but, you know, I don't know. I hope they don't drag the United States into the fight, you know. That's all I'm worried about. That could definitely happen. You know, I think probably a big chance of that happening. But if Iran ends up being a country that puts a nail in the coffin of Israel and also starts the beginning of the end of the American military-industrial complex imperial machine, then great. But I see there's like 7 people here. Like, you guys let me know. Where are you guys from, by the way? Where do you guys live? Where are you guys from? I live in New York. I live in right now I live in Long Island. I moved from Brooklyn. I was in Brooklyn for 8 years, and I moved here about 3.5 months ago. Check out this community, by the way. This is all the beds. The beds are basically rented, I think, and people can plan whatever they want. I'm probably going to rent something eventually. But it's also volunteer work, so you can actually contribute volunteer. And here's my cats just chilling. Yeah, I don't see any chat. You guys let me know. Where you guys from, by the way? Or I'm just going to continue with my rant. I have a bunch of topics. I always write down stuff rapidly, and I have a lot of thoughts going through my head. Someone just messaged me on WhatsApp. They're like, some person I was talking to a few days ago in the car, and they're like just dismissing the idea of what I was telling them about, like society being controlled by billionaires and all that shit. And like how, you know, Elon Musk is an idiot, and how technology is not being used wisely at all. You know, and he was kind of dismissing it. He just messaged me right now. So funny. He just like, by the way, I was looking into the things you're saying, and you're actually right about this. those are like little wins, you know. Makes you happy to get these little wins, because this guy's a lot younger than me. I'm 41. He's 27, I think 27. And I'm trying to impress upon him the importance of being educated and learning. The importance of that kind of stuff. So important for you to be educated and learn about the world you live in. Why would you not want to? Why would you like to be lied to? Why would you want to... Are you that tunnel vision in your path to make money? I know we all have to make money, but are you that tunnel visioned and zoned in that you can't you can't afford yourself the time to study a little bit. I mean, come on, man. What's up, Nicholas? Hey, Remendy, what's up? Russia. Oh, Russia. Cool. I didn't know you were from Russia. Nice. That's what's up. Where are you from, Nicholas Jose Sara? I feel like I know you. I don't know. But, all right, I'm going to continue. I don't know. You guys, once I post the video, you guys can kind of go back to see the things I was talking about. But I was talking about October 7th and how October 7th has affected the world. In what ways it has affected the world. It's talking about the media landscape changing, the opinions of the world, even of Europe and Western countries, the young people there. Israel's lost them, Israel's lost them, and it's become very desperate. Utah, what's up? That's awesome. We got Utah, we got Russia, we got somewhere in Russia, but I mean, we're in Russia. I would have no idea. My geography is terrible. And got New York in here. Cool. Nick, you gotta let us know where you're from. But like I was saying, yeah, and also I personally have learned, so much how there are so many different companies that are connected to this network, so it all works together, right? It's all systemic and it's all connected. Nothing is done as separate, okay? Palantir, the way it collects data on people through Peter Thiel's system, the Trump regime, the fascist Trump regime, the military-industrial complex, the Israel Mossad, the Israeli media network, the propaganda networks of the United States. These are all well-oiled machines. They all work together to create this outcome. And there's so many different corporations that make a lot of money off the apartheid system in Israel. And so those investments are going to be soon reduced over time. That's going to be a major factor in the decline of Israel. I mean, by the way, also, I posted a 40-something minute video about how Israel will end. If you want to check out on my channel, it's somewhere down in the video section. But if you check out that video, I pretty much explained the 5 different factors which I believe will bring about the end of Israel, which could happen. Who knows? We never know. The world changes so rapidly sometimes. These have been some of the craziest last few years, guys. I don't know about you, but some of the craziest things how you doing? From what I'm just observing, people, I don't know, maybe people are not moved that much by what they see, but I'm seeing some crazy developments in the world. Just today, like the whole AI thing, like Bernie Sanders made a video about AI and how AI is changing so rapidly and so many jobs will be lost. We're like, okay, bro, like I've known that stuff I've been talking about that 16 years ago. Once I joined the resource-based economy, Zeitgeist movement, Venus Project, the Jacques Fresco coalition, I guess you want to call it, the sustainability movement for systemic change, being a systems thinker. I knew about that back then, how like the solution is like very simple. 20 years ago, we should have been starting to apply all the stuff. Like the jobs are going away to machines. Okay, you make a slow transition towards a society that does not chase obsessively the idea of everybody being employed doing some fucking stupid job, some random shit, just like having them do whatever to keep them occupied and waste their time, waste their life. No, you work towards efficiency of society and the economy being managed as much by the labor of machines, and you give people new things to do. You evolve society. You move beyond the idea of consumerism and growth and artificial demand, all these ridiculous concepts. So yeah, but Bernie Sanders said none of that shit. He's a broken record. He just keeps complaining about the billionaire class and, oh God, which is right. I mean, he's right. Yeah, the jobs are going to go away. The jobs will be gutted. The industrial base in the United States will be gutted. A lot of manufacturing actually might come back to the United States, but in the worst way possible. There's going to be a bunch of totalitarian, fascistic, techno-feudal lords who bring their corporations and all their production capacity back to the States, many of them. And yeah, but it's all automated, There's no jobs. Like, they're not going to offer jobs to the working class. No way. The jobs are going to be gutted and profits will skyrocket. It's going to make the inequality even that much worse and social instability that much worse. But Bernie Sanders, so famous. He's on so many channels and massive following. He doesn't propose. It's just like his thing is like, oh, people should have to. Okay, I understand where he's coming from. He's like, people should have a livelihood. People should have a job to do so they feel the livelihood of what it means to be a human. Of course, I myself feel that. I feel really good when I'm busy working sometimes, and when I'm idle, the idle mind invites the devil, right? So it's like, yeah, I agree with that. But like, so you want to halt progress? You want to stop the machines from doing the work? Why would you do that? Like, yeah, to favor the working class, but like, we want to evolve. Isn't the point of society to evolve constantly and get change and get better? some evolutions are necessary, you know? So if the machines can do a job of a human 100 times better, you put the machines in place, but the people who, basically the jobs, okay, so here's how the transition should go. And he actually talked about it a little bit, like this is the transition, this part I agree with, which is kind of what I thought about 15 years ago. Like immediately when I heard about these concepts, and I'm like, okay, so if the machines are taking the jobs away, you slowly transition towards a mindless society. I mean, it's just ideal, obviously, right? It's very ideal. Society's not going to go that way. But if you actually had sane people in power, in positions of influence, when society starts automating rapidly, you start reducing the workforce. But also, the people who have like a 40-hour work week, let's say, right? Like working in an industrial plant, doing some of the heaviest, most important jobs our society, needs to do to function. Those people, instead of working 40 hours a week, they work, I don't know, 10 hours a week or 5 hours a week, okay? But their pay will be like multiplied. So because the machines don't require money, right? So the workers get paid extra, but you divide the labor up more. You completely eliminate unemployment. All the issues that people have not been work to do, you can easily get rid of that. You just like get the jobs multiplied among many people, because if the mentality is not to chase profits, this is what you would do. Obviously, it's not going to go that way. Obviously, the billionaires are going to hoard as much as possible and kick off as many people off the work, sadly. But if you have a sane transition, that's what you would do. You split up the work among more people, reduce the work hours, but multiply the income, because it's basically just wealth being created from the machines. Like true wealth is our ability to economize efficiently, right? Which means doing more, achieving more tasks and more energy with less resources and less energy, with less manpower, less time. That's the true efficiency. And like, obviously machines can do that. So if machines can do that, that's what you do. You make the transition, and then you create new institutions, you create new governing bodies that have to do with real economic maintenance, resource, like a database for inventory of resources, and then being able to distribute resources in an intelligent manner among population. All that stuff can be done, but unfortunately we're still stuck with this obsession over the idea of, oh, people have to work for money, labor for income, competition, hierarchy, like just having a society based on inequality, based on debt, as David Graeber talked about it. The whole idea of debt being such a stupid, ridiculous thing. Like, we still live in the law of the jungle kind of a thing. We have machines that can do incredible stuff. You can go to the moon. We can have automation, nanotechnology, AI, but we can't. Still can't get rid of the idea of money and debt being used to expand an infinite growth system. That makes no sense at all. My cat's really loving this. She's been sick lately. She's been kind of not doing well lately, but like she's been really happy now. I don't know why. I think she likes what I'm talking about. It's kind of funny. It's kind of hilarious. She doesn't do that. Yeah, anyway, I got kind of off topic because I'm talking about debt and automation and all that stuff. And I lost the paper I had with me. It's okay though. Shit, where'd the paper go? I have my notes in my hand. Shit. By the way, I hope you guys, what's up, Ireland? Ireland's in the house, yo. This is so freaking cool. We got Utah, we got Ireland, we got Russia, we got Nicholas, who's from Washington State. Dope. Yo, I was in Washington, D.C. A few months ago when Netanyahu was there to give a speech. I went there by myself to protest that a-hole, going there. It was a crazy time back then. All right, I found my notes, guys. I'm going to continue with the stream for a little while longer, then I'm going to go to my Muay Thai class. I'm going to go train because the guys got to work out, I got to work out. I hope you guys are working out too. Got to get my workout in. I've had a little bit of a stressful week. Need to work out, feel better. All right, check it out. Okay, so like, obviously the overt, so the overt fascism is one thing I want to talk about. The overt fascism and, free speech being suppressed. Rise of the rise of the multipolar world, BRICS and China, sure. The global South. So like, you guys know about the BRICS nations and China, and how China's spearheading the world moving towards multipolarity, which is like, that's where the world should go. And I feel like, October 7th, on a lot of ways, has has further, what's the word, has further expedited the process of the BRICS nations, creating economic basically attaining economic dominance. What an idiot. So the BRICS nations, the G7, that has basically been sped up, and expedited because of October 7th. Because, the brutality of the West, the stupidity of Israel to do what they're doing, committing genocide, and then on the international scene, on the international stage, the European countries that support Israel, their legitimacy has been so damaged. The United States has no more legitimacy of what they're doing. The brazen acts of violence. And I feel like Israel is setting new heights of imperial and colonial violence that are so high up that the U.S. feels like, we can do things that are equally as disgusting. We can bomb Venezuelan fishing boats and all that and say, oh, these guys like narcotic terrorists or whatever, So it's so ridiculous. But I feel like multipolarity has to take hold. We have to have multipolarity. We should be striving towards a multipolar world as much as we can. We have to be talking about the importance of like China and these other nations as much as we can, because, the U.S. losing its stranglehold, the United States losing its stranglehold, and the West losing their vice grip on the world order would be so good for the world, for the global South to actually rise up after so many decades of violence and exploitation against them. That would be so important. I feel like, man, imagine okay, a country like Iran, a country where I'm from originally, where I grew up, that country can have incredible wealth and resources and technical know-how and like technology on its own if it's actually allowed to develop, but these countries have, because through so many different, political fuckery by the West, these countries have not been allowed to develop, no, don't get me wrong, Iran's very developed in many ways, it was scientifically and all that, but like they economically they're struggling a lot because of the sanctions. So that's what I mean when it comes to Iran. But my point is, multipolarity is like, yeah, I feel like we're moving quite rapidly towards multipolarity because of the events of October 7th and how they showed the genocide, the hypocrisy of the West, and how the United Nations, which was created by these countries to like preserve the world order and whatever, prevent genocide, peace, all that bullshit, it's all been pathetically exposed. It's so exposed, and China just kind of like, I feel like China in a little bit of a sinister way, they should do more to save Palestine, but they're kind of probably thinking like, let the West shoot itself in the foot. Let the fucking West and the United States look stupid in front of the world and how disgusting they are for supporting genocide. We'll just sit back and say nice things to the United Nations, That's one of my problems with China, because it's so concerned with self-preservation. Sometimes it will not step out to do too much for other countries, but hey, at the same time, I understand we live in this capitalist world, man. China's a hybrid capitalist model, and it's got to do what it's got to do, man, to push forward the vision of the Chinese Communist Party and, the Chinese culture, Chinese people. But, all right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up pretty soon. This is kind of a short stream, 30 minutes, not bad. Let me see. I gotta go to my class, I gotta go work out. But let me see, what are the topics? The fascism thing. I want to talk about the Trump phenomenon. Okay? So people are shocked by this fascism of Trump. Should not be shocked because, the Constitution, I was telling my friend the other day, hey, how you doing, man? The Constitution, it was good for the time that it was written, okay? The Constitution served a good purpose during the time that it was written. When was it written? Hundreds of years ago, during a time where we literally had slavery, a time where humanity was so primitive. We were so incredibly primitive that is nothing compared to today's world. So the Constitution as a document was a brilliant piece of human rights and all that stuff back then, but it does not serve today's world. And also, it really has no safeguards. The Constitution is just a bunch of nice, pretty words on a document. All people have the right for liberty, justice, and the pursuit of happiness, all that stuff. Okay, it's nice to say those things, but unless you actually have a system that can actually orient itself and provide those things through, a proper design, like the system that's actually designed properly to deliver those things, because the system actually works. Unless you have that kind of system, the Constitution ain't gonna do nothing, you know. And also, when it comes to fascism, when it comes to totalitarianism and the abuse of people's rights, these you just like they write a bunch of stuff on a piece of paper. These are human rights, but like the amendments, right? The amendments to the Constitution, they can be easily broken. So it's not actually it's not an actual fail-safe, okay? Whereas, hey, you know, I work in construction right now. When you're trying to build a house, you have to follow a strict code in order to make sure that the structure does not fall upon itself or cave in. The reason why we have all these buildings around me that hold themselves up properly is because we follow a rigid code that has been written down and expanded upon and constantly evolving. Obviously, we're coming out with new concepts when it comes to architecture and engineering, all that stuff. But my point is, we operate off of a very, very unbending code that provides efficiency to society. Okay, so the same when it comes to society, when it comes to like politics and economics, we should also have that same kind of a code. Instead of writing a bunch of things down, no, you design society in a way where resources are actually provided to people sustainably. That way you don't have to have a bunch of amendments to rely upon, okay? The reason why we have fascism is because we live in a system that's inherently fascist. The system actually supports totalitarianism and inequality and oppression and hierarchy. It supports those elements. So because the system creates those things, no piece of legislation or a constitution is going to stop an eventual abuse of power. You know, we've had abusive fascistic system in place for a long time in the United States, obviously, but like it was never so brazenly overt. It is brazenly overt through Trump and getting much, much worse because of the fact that we became so lazy. Like the United States, the people of the United States thought in a way lazy manner, because we have the Constitution, no one's gonna rip it up, you know, and shit on it, and you know, set it on fire because we have the Constitution. Whereas, like, sorry, man, it didn't work, right? It didn't stop Trump's totalitarian takeover, which pretty much is happening slowly right now. So that's my point about the Constitution. Is like, you can't just write a bunch of stuff down and you know, whatever. Like, yeah. So like, there's like really clever quote long time ago. It was like, thou shalt. Okay, like, you know how we say thou shalt not kill, or whatever. The right way to say the correct way to word an important like declaratory statement, I guess that's really what it is. The Constitution is just a bunch of declaratory statements. A good way to cleverly word it is like, thou shalt support a society that sets forth the correct environmental orientations to remove aberrant behavior such as theft and murder. So I'll say that again. Instead of thou shalt not kill, we're just like, oh, you can't kill people, you know? Okay, well, shit. What if some guy has been abused, you know, he was abused as a child, and then he has no self-respect for himself later in life because he gets married, he can't provide for his wife and his family, he gets fired from his job, right? Doesn't have work, has no self-respect, has no self-worth, and he's struggling financially in a really big way and seeing other people do well. That inequality literally triggers an unavoidable outcome in a lot of ways, which is violence, okay? So that's like, you know, instead of saying thou shalt not kill, you say, no, thou shalt support the creation and perpetuation of a society in which the society is designed in a way to meet human needs on every fundamental level, so that we avoid environmental stimuli that can lead to people having propensities towards acts of towards aberrant behavior, such as acts of violence or theft. So that's like the correct way to word it. If you're actually going to be a systems thinker and actually use proper psychology and human behavioral analysis, because I mean, that's what the Pentagon should be, right? The Pentagon, instead of being a freaking stupid building that you game plan strategies on how to assassinate and kill people, the Pentagon should be a big building where there's massive groups of interdisciplinary teams of scientists, engineers, behaviorists, you know, all kinds of people who like working towards solving problems for society. That's what the Pentagon should actually be, you know. But instead, it's just a freaking for-profit theft machine. Massive amounts of money, by the way. You know, if you know, I don't know if you guys pay attention to it, but like massive amounts of money, multiple audits of the Pentagon. The money's been nowhere to be found. You know, we're talking about trillions of dollars, by the way. Anyway, that's my problem with it, right? So it's like, how do you find people? The progressive circle still look at the Constitution as some incredible marvel. They still are obsessed over, bringing the working class back and having them good job. Like, sorry, man, the jobs are not coming back, man. It's over. We talked about this like 15, 16 years ago. Peter Joseph and Jacques Fresco talked about automation. Technological unemployment is here. Technological unemployment, it's the jobs are going away and they ain't coming back, man. Especially with look at all the warfare, right? We're automating. We are relying on AI to find, poor, displaced Palestinian families in Gaza and bombing them. How inhumane, how disgusting. But that's pretty much where it's headed. And I mean, it's just going to favor destruction because of the fact that AI, with capitalism fueling it, AI is going to be bad. If AI was actually being used by a system that was about, environmental sustainability and public health, pursuing actual public health and having an economy that's sustainable with planet Earth and an economy that favors everybody and actually, works, AI in that system would not be bad, it would not be destructive. But that's the world we live in, guys. All right, I've been talking for quite a while, maybe another few minutes and I'm gonna bounce. Well, I'm just gonna walk over. If you guys have any questions, let me know, man. I hope you guys have been here and the screen's not frozen or some shit. Trying to find my cat actually. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I'll talk for a little bit more about whatever you got. Whatever topic you want me to discuss. Where's my cat? Psst. So yeah, guys, that was the October 7th recap video. Even though I talked about a lot of other stuff, it's okay. Yeah, the world is changing rapidly. We have to prepare for, prepare for the worst. Things are going to continually get worse before they get better, especially with the political scene. And if Palestine actually becomes a state, that would be huge. And Israel will continue to self-destruct. Israel will continue to destroy itself politically, eventually economically, and militarily too, obviously. Hey, how you doing?
All right.
Yeah, so. All right, guys. How are you? Good. All right, guys. If you got any questions, let me know. What do I think about the strategy of building co-ops within capitalism? I think it's good. I think it's important to build co-ops, workers' co-ops, of course, share resources, pool labor, and take care of each other's needs. Yeah, mutual aid networks too. I'm very big on the idea of mutual aid. These are important things to do for sure. And to build sustainable, strong communities that are somewhat self-sustaining, as what Anarch talked about when he showed me the concept of prefiguration, right? I'm sure you know about that concept. He talked about it in that video. I've never heard that word before, actually, prefiguration. So if you have, I think worker co-ops that have enough prefiguration to sustain themselves, to be resilient enough to, take care of their communities as things get worse, and yeah, I think it's a great idea, of course. Will it be done on a massive scale? That's the problem, right? The majority of the population majority of people have been so hooked onto capitalism, dependent upon the system, that it's so difficult to get these ideas embraced by the public. It takes a lot of advocation for it to actually take root. But what Anarch is doing is pretty awesome. I have my ideas too. I'm kind of a lone wolf kind of a activist. I don't work with too many other groups. I was part of the Zeitgeist movement for a long time, but I do plan on pooling resources and getting people together to form some kind of community down the line. Ideally a community that actually what would be a really cool thing would be to have a community that really lives as much as possible by the values and ethos of a resource-based economy, that lives as close as possible to what people would actually behave like and operate like in a resource-based economy. Because really, ideally, it doesn't just come down to people living together in a workers' co-op. What you want is people who also have shared values, or truly progressive values that can move humanity into the future. So if we recognize that the value system, the values of competition, of hierarchy, of static observance of, like, being somebody who is established in some area. These ideas like have to be evolved out of in order for communities to actually be able to sustain themselves properly, because we need to have really progressive, truly like advanced values, if we want to change the way we operate, change the way we look at each other, so yeah. But I do believe that workers' co-ops can be evolved like rapidly into bigger, more powerful institutions, especially with technology becoming cheaper. So if people are wise, they will get a hand of some of these technologies that are becoming cheaper because of stuff phenomenon. So yeah, I hope that people can eventually utilize more advanced technologies too. Like actually having our own production hub. Imagine having your own like miniature form of like meeting demands. I forgot what it was called by Peter Joseph, like having networked digitized feedback. So you have a whole industrial machine, a small industrial machine that is networked through all the different systems of a local small economy of maybe a couple hundred people that can actually meet needs sustainably, but also allowing for a minimalistic, affluent kind of a lifestyle. That would be freaking awesome. I know I got really carried away talking about a bunch of stuff, but all right, guys, what do you think? Building co-op system. How do you build supply chain or raw materials and resource? Well, I mean, you would pretty much have to start with a community of determined people, right? You have to pull resources together, get a community of determined people together, and form our own means of production, right? We can grow food. We can, let's say in a small area, you can grow a bunch of food using vertical farms, urban farming, permaculture, and then you can have a materials hub. Like, I definitely think in the future you can use 3D printing and other machines to have your own form of production, all right, and even recycling. And yeah, so I mean, you would have to obviously start on a very small scale and then build it, and then scale it up from there. Because honestly, you cannot have like thousands and thousands of people moving into this new kind of living and economy, because people's values are quite distorted, unfortunately. It's very hard, man, to break from the grain. Very hard. My cats are back. I'm coming back home, guys. I'm going in to get ready to go to class. Guys, thank you so much for joining this live stream. I appreciate it. Free Palestine. Obviously, I got my hoodie. Free Palestine. Guys, it's finally getting cold here. It was warm for so long, but it's finally getting cold here. So, it's my first day actually putting something warm on. First time. But, yeah. Free Palestine, decolonize people's minds. Don't be afraid to speak the truth, guys. Do not be afraid to call Israel what it is, a terrorist state, and then say that Palestinians have every right to resist occupation. We should call for equal human rights across the board. No hypocrisy, no favoritism of anybody. Okay? That's it, man. Cooperation. Strength through cooperation. Strength through unifying our values together and realizing the hypocrisy must end very soon. And yeah, like multipolarity is a very big thing in today's world. Multipolarity. Like, not there being one schoolyard bully that tells everybody what to do. No, having multiple countries that have a say in the matter of how the world, what direction the world should work towards. But there's just so many layers to sustainability, right? Stopping the wars, preparing for climate change, resource shortage, water shortage, totalitarianism, inequality, the rise of fascism. So many things to be concerned about, but also so many interesting and exciting possibilities for the human race, moving towards automation and, hey, using automation as the real emancipation proclamation for humanity, which is what we're not doing, sadly. But the point is that the one area that I can say we're always going to improve in is innovation and improving how we do things. However, innovation is not the only answer, right? We cannot be delusional in thinking that just because we innovate, we're going to make things better. Yeah, that's my cat. Yeah, yeah.
Both?
Yeah, both, yeah.
Beautiful, man.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So you just come out, get fresh air, and then go back.
Yeah, I'm just taking it for a walk. Yeah, yeah. All right. Yeah, if you guys don't know by now, I'm kind of crazy. My cats like go walking with me, you know. What's up? All right, guys. Thank you so much for the stream. It's been an honor. Thank you. It's always fun. It's been a while. I mean, it's been almost 2 months that I've not made a video or done anything. So this is my first time actually doing something. I feel very guilty sometimes when I don't make content. But you know, life hits you in different ways. You know, you're busy doing a bunch of stuff. But yeah, guys, working towards, hey, moving beyond capitalism, working towards a society that's actually sustainable and efficient for everybody is a very, very monumental thing to do. But hopefully the world moves closer in that direction. And hey, all of us play our small role, right? Everybody plays a role in how we get there. Whether it's creating media, whether it's you know, building communities, or whether it's advocating for fresh new solutions, we all gotta do our part. We, you know, especially it comes down to just still communication and education. Like this stuff that I talk about, man, I'm very sure by far majority of YouTube media, all that stuff out there, they don't talk about these things. You know, they're still obsessed with they're stuck in a little echo chamber, right? All these different channels, they're just interviewing each other. They interview their friends. They're stuck in a little echo chamber, and they're not evolving their mindset as fast as it needs to evolve. You know, but anyway, I do my part. I'm a systems thinker. I'm a structuralist. I want global unification of human values, of healthy human values for everybody. And like I said before, technology can only be an amplifier. Technology is an amplifier. If you want to destroy yourself, like market capitalism does, okay, technology will help you build a nuclear bomb. It'll help you, you know, gut the whole planet and industrialize so heavily, so fast that you just like destroy yourself from climate change. Or if you have an economy that's based on natural law and respecting, you know, planetary limits, and an environment and an economy that's actually based on meeting human needs intelligently, well, then technology can do good things for you, you know? Can actually rapidly allow you to take care of a lot of people's needs with very little energy. So, just sad. Well, I mean, like, there's this guy, I saw his channel, I just joined it recently on Instagram. It was called Open Source Everything. And here's one guy who has such incredible, like talking about using water as a battery, and like, you know, all this stuff about, you know, like, oh, like renewable energy is not even as efficient as what he's proposing, which is actually incredible. Like, here's one guy, right, who came up with a bunch of blueprints on how to use technology in a more intelligent way to meet your local needs. By the way, check out his YouTube channel. I think it's called, his Instagram. I think it's called Open Source Everything. But like, here's one guy. He's not an institution. He's not a government. He's not a billionaire. Just one regular guy who learned how to do this stuff. He's made those blueprints open source for everybody to check out. Open source. Another important thing, right? For all the people in the progressive circles to open source their solutions and the way they go about, you know. Yeah, what I was trying to say is basically, like, even with a small number of people who are doing incredible things out there, imagine if these numbers got bigger and faster. The world would change very rapidly. But we don't have that, you know. Yeah, the amount of people that, like, basically the amount of people that need to be radicalized is far still few. Very, very few. Holy crap. And we got to do a better job at getting people to really wake up and see the reality for what it actually is. Oh, all right. It's now 6 o'clock. I got to go. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining the stream. I'm going to sign out here. Peace out. Free Palestine. All right? Keep fighting for Palestine. Keep fighting for the truth. Keep exposing the lies, the hypocrisy of not only imperialism, colonialism, but also capitalism. All right. Peace. Later.